Right here you see the airport. The big names come and go from the beautiful borough.
Farnborough, Hampshire. Population about 65,000. 32 miles southwest of London, according to this milestone. Part of the district of Rushmoor with Aldershot, which is known as the home of the British Army. The history of Farnborough begins with a record as Farnborough in a Domesday Book of 1086. A famous bare-knuckle boxing match took place behind the Ship Inn. Napoleon III and his wife, Empress Eugenie, are buried in St Michael's Abbey, which stands overlooking the town. And of course, Farnborough is famous for its air show. And its connection with aviation, spearheaded by American Samuel Cody. Our history pretty much ended when a second McDonald's went up about a mile from the first, replacing the cultural hub, the tumble-down Dick Pub, better known as the Tumbly. Starting as a small village and now a sprawling town served by an airport, railway lines, schools, hotels, big business, small business, independent business. The town's pretty average in that it suffers and benefits from the current social and political landscape of the country. That's why us, two amateur filmmakers armed with cheap sandwiches and even cheaper equipment, spent 2016 analysing how the town relates to the narrative of the country and the wider world. What's happening to our communities? Why are so few people engaged? And could anything be done about it?
What is politics? I don't know how how the world is run at this point in time. Like, important decisions that need to be made. It's things that could be positive towards the community, maybe. I mean, it doesn't really affect me too much directly. Well, there's like famine, there's homeless people, there's lack of funds for particular areas, there's lack of jobs for particular areas, there's overpopulation in particular areas. Just depends on whereabouts you live.
You would say that the key issues affecting all of humanity would be just homelessness and lack of funds, nothing to do with, say, a nuclear war or global.
Well, yeah, that too, but...
Or disease, resistance to antibiotics, things like that.
Yeah, that too, obviously, but not directly. I mean, obviously we are involved in it, but it doesn't affect myself directly.
Do you vote? Do you vote in local elections or general elections?
I voted first time last year.
Really?
I voted Conservative.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In all honesty, I wasn't too sure, because I wanted to vote Green Party because it was more student-based. I don't think teenagers honestly have enough information given to them about it.
People are really kind of thoroughly disengaged from politics. They just look at Westminster and they just think it's totally irrelevant. Who can blame people who say, oh, they're just in it for their own game, because they are really in it to gain power and keep power. Politicians used to be drawn from the community and from different professions and kind of rise up and represent bodies of people, and that kind of representative link has gone.
I went to the nurse and then she gave me a sticker because I was brave there. I have never ever been ill.
That's good.
Wow.
Like, broken my body. I've only had a sneeze or a flu.
Why did you want to be a nurse then? Do you know?
Because I like helping people.
Would you pay to go see a doctor?
It depends how urgent the necessity of it was.
So if it was a 999 situation, you're happy to pay, so you give your credit card details when you're in 999.
Well, I'd have to. It just depends on how severe it is. You always hear about there not being enough nurses or doctors or whatever, or not good enough equipment. They want more money because money's being funded elsewhere, isn't it, surely? But it's just something that's never going to change. You just got to accept that.
Okay.
Well, there's not going to be like a movement, is there?
Save our NHS! Save our NHS!
difficult to take politics out of it when you're looking at Conservative ministers such as Jeremy Hunt doing what he's doing. There's simply not enough money to run a sufficient 5-day NHS. We're already broken, but the government just want to push forward their 7-day NHS, and they're not listening to the healthcare professionals, nurses, midwives, doctors, paramedics on the front line who are saying this is simply not safe for patients.
Well, the NHS, the National Health Service, it was created in 1948, so after World War II, and it was part of the welfare state. It was designed to provide a universal, comprehensive healthcare service free at the point of need. It's arguably the most important thing for any person, because we're all patients or future patients and our loved ones.
Well, they're understaffed all the time. So yeah, they're just it's a uphill battle, isn't it, for them constantly. I don't know if it's just the fact that they're not training people adequately enough, so there's not enough people trained in that area, or just that they're not coughing up enough money to actually employ more people. I don't know. They seem to be making progress on it. There's always long waits when you go there. There are always not enough people and stuff.
I also am here because I'm repaying all the debts I owe them. Because I've had cancer, I've had heart bypass, I've had a hip replacement. Ronnie's just turned up. He's another MP, sits with me, Ronnie Campbell.
Oh yeah.
And he's had a knee operation. Two knee operations.
Yes. They've helped you out as well then?
Yes.
Yeah.
Last autumn I was given an unexpectedly serious diagnosis and had several months of intensive treatment, and it just this happened really after, of course, publishing my book How to Dismantle the NHS in 10 Easy Steps about the privatisation of the NHS, and so that was kind of ironic, I guess, but it just underlined really the message of why I'd written the book for the public, which is that we all need the NHS, and you never know, however fit or young you think you are, when you'll need it, and that's what's being taken away.
We love the public, we serve the public, working for the NHS.
I think the NHS is going to be privatised.
Yes.
The NHS is basically being sold off to private corporations to profit from illness and vulnerability. That's what's clearly happening and has been happening for some time now. And ultimately the final step is to introduce a private health insurance system and charging.
I'm ready to go and tell you how impassioned I feel about doctors and what they're doing, and that's why I'm here with this local rally. Jeremy Hunt vetoed a meeting when it got to a stage where something really positive could happen for both sides, and he vetoed it. He's a very wealthy man, and he's not going to be at all worried if these doctors go elsewhere to work, which is what I heard from a young doctor on a rally in London who said he was going to be £9,000 a year worse off with these new contracts, and that he already works 2 weekends in 3, and he's been offered posts in both Spain and Australia. And this is just NHS England. And if we lose these doctors, the only differential we'll have for treatment will be money. And if we can't pay, we won't have what we have now, which is so precious, and it mustn't be taken away. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Brilliant.
What is austerity and how does it affect you?
I don't know what that word means, sorry. I don't know, I mean, it doesn't... It's just not something I've thought about before. It's something that
The cuts haven't really had a bearing on your life.
not significantly enough that it's going to affect me in a drastic way.
Yeah, austerity is real. We do see a lot of people who need our assistance going forward.
Yeah.
And of course, because we see that, we have a feel for the real world, i.e. the impact and so on. And I think nationally, citizens' advice are very well listened to, because we measure the consequence.
But somehow the Conservative government and the coalition government before them have convinced everyone that the national budget is like a household budget. We maxed out our credit card, there's no money left. The amount of construction that's going on, super rich, the kind of takeover of property by the ultra high net worth individuals, or whatever they're called. There's blatantly, there is money, it's just that it's becoming increasingly unequally distributed.
Let's be candid. Austerity is challenging. It's challenging for local authorities. I'm confident that there's the expertise and the focus in delivering quality services in a cost-effective manner within Rushmoor. We've applied systems thinking to lots of our processes, which is basically cut the slack and any waste which may be in, and improved our services at a lower cost.
Austerity is kind of the fancy word for the cuts programme, basically. I mean, this is, George Osborne, David Cameron's idea that, well, what you have to do is slash the state, slash public spending as far as you can, push everything into the private sector or just not do it at all. And that's, their name for that is the austerity programme, because it kind of sounds like, I think they use it because it's got air of that kind of Second World War, so it makes it sound like we're all in this together, and it's like, it might be rationing, but it's the good cause, like defeating Hitler, except it's not defeating Hitler, it's defeating people who need disability benefits and things like that, which is not exactly the same thing.
How do you feel about income tax and national insurance tax?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big chunk of pay every month. But again, it's something that everyone has to do. There are some tax fraudsters that try and evade it.
Like who?
Lionel Messi.
Tax is a really socially useful thing. It's not that everybody loves paying their taxes, but we like the things that we get for our taxes. So roads that get us places, schools that educate our young people, and even if you haven't got children, you need young people to be educated to do the work of the future. The taxes have an amazing purpose in society. So that's the first one, is to pay for stuff. The second one, you can adjust the economy through taxation. So, for example, if there's a recession, government can spend money into the economy and can balance the economy out again. Tax also creates that bond between government and citizen. It creates accountability, which is really important. And tax can reprice things. So if something has a damaging effect on society, like smoking or excessive drinking or whatever, carbon being emitted, it's possible to put a tax on those things and increase their price and potentially decrease their impact.
Initially, I thought that tax havens, and there are all sorts of odd countries, small countries that seems to gain money or earn money from, say, producing irrelevant stamps. So San Marino has stamps with beautiful stamps of giraffe. Obviously there's no giraffes in San Marino. Why did they have that? Or Elvis, or whatever. So initially I thought we're talking about a very peripheral, anecdotal aspect of the world economy and world society. Small dots, countries which are survived for some reason. The Vatican, Andorra. But then I discovered that about 50% of the global stock of money goes through this jurisdiction. And if 50% of the global stock of money goes through them, then it changes completely our perspective of the importance of this offshore world. 50% of the global stock of money goes through them. 1/3 of foreign direct investment is invested through these jurisdictions. So if you ask, who is the main investors in China? I ask my students. Most people say the United States. Well, not correct. The largest investors, of course, Hong Kong, but the second largest for many, many years have been British Virgin Islands.
There's an estimate to be 13 trillion in offshore tax havens. Do you think that's an accurate estimation?
That's the low end of
that's
it,
the low end
isn't
of
it?
it.
That doesn't include people's yachts and Picassos. I often point out to people that if you put a dollar bill on the ground, 4 trillion reaches the moon.
It's a capitalist system. It's unfair. It's supposed to be unfair. It's actually working really well. working great. You know, it's ensuring that wealth travels upwards. There is very little redistribution of wealth. There's very, our tax system was put in place to try and ensure some sort of redistribution and fairness. We know that that's not worked. We know that the tax system's not working because the elite now have sort of wrapping up our systems in all sorts of legal arguments in order to not pay and not to be involved in that system of redistribution.
I think inequality is a problem here. I think growing gap between rich and poor. CEOs on 10, 12 times the salaries of their employees is kind of nuts in any scenario, no matter how amazing they are. I'm sure they're amazing, but they'd have to be pretty amazing to justify that amount of pay. The issue now is people are slowly starting to realise is that the offshore world is about secrecy, and secrecy there is only one reason for secrecy, and that's to do things that you wouldn't like people to know that you've done. And that's why corporations are so much better off. That's why the rich are so much better off, is because they're playing the game a lot better than your average Joe. It is kind of on the average Joe to, me, you, everyone else, to kind of start playing the game in a really sophisticated way to try and get our own back. And that's not about chaining yourself to railings or waving placards, because unfortunately that does bugger all. You need to actually use the system against itself in a legal way, so the authorities and the powers that be can't really say anything.
Let's talk about the bankers. All right. What happened? What's happening now? What's happening in Greece? The Greek people are being forced into absolute poverty to pay to keep the banks in France and Germany mainly, who made bad investment decisions, from going bust. Iceland, outside the EU, that sent bankers to jail. It made bad decisions, and it didn't support them. It supported the people. And what's happening now? Iceland now has a thriving economy. It's like someone walks into your casino and you say, you know what, even if you lose, I'll give you your money back. So what they're going to do? They're going to gamble bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're going to lose more and more and more.
So do you get pocket money, all of you?
Yeah, I do.
You do
I
what?
got a big jar of it.
Oh yeah?
But I have more money than my big sister. I've got Willie with lots of money.
Yeah.
I've got a pound. My big sister hasn't got any because she keeps some winding me up.
What do you have to do for your money?
Yeah.
Work hard.
Work hard.
I have to clean the house.
Yeah.
What would you like to spend your money on?
Chocolate. Sweets.
Sweets.
Just
Big
chocolates?
boy chocolates.
Yeah.
Coca-Cola bottles. No,
Do you think money is important?
Haribo. Otherwise you wouldn't have food. Money is important.
Yeah.
Inequality. I think that's the principal thing, and inequality has its kind of income and wealth element, but also political power. Large numbers of people not only don't have very much in terms of life chances, opportunities, or any kind of standard of living, and then that bleeds into not complete powerlessness, a large amount of powerlessness.
There are some very obvious things. So I'm sure if you went to, and maybe you will, but go to speak to citizens' advice, the vast majority of their inquiries, as I understand it, I don't want to speak for them, but I understand it, around debt. You will see a lot of very nice housing, maybe a couple of cars on the drive. But I often wonder sometimes I've experienced that actually doesn't tell the whole story. So there can be debt, there can be huge anxieties, dysfunctionality in families. It's typical of any community, the quest for meaning. And I wonder with a lot of people who live around here, in common with all humanity, there's perhaps a sense of meaninglessness about people's lives, for which I believe we can offer answers.
How are you? I'm getting by. It's kind of like it's a word, it's a phrase that means so much to so many different people. It can actually mean, yeah, I'm coping, it's all right, to actually, I'm in the shit, and that's what getting by can mean as well. It can mean that I'm in the shit, because getting by doesn't always necessarily mean I'm coping. I've heard people say that, who are homeless. I've heard people say that on their way to the food bank. I've heard people say that in the food bank.
Food bank is here to help people in crisis. People in need, for whatever their needs are. Could be that they're unemployed. Could be that they've had long-term sickness. When Sue and I first started, we thought we were going to be doing 2 days a week. We're now doing 5 days. It's become a full-time job.
Do you feel there's a good community involved?
Do you know what? We were amazed when we started this project because there's Rushmoor voluntary services, and they hold a meeting once every 3 months, and all the charities go down there. And we're just bowled out over how many charities they are trying to help people. It's amazing.
We have been going since 2009.
Why did you start it?
Why did we start it? Well, we started with visions and dreams.
I was just sat there quietly and I had this vision of a homeless person begging. Well, what am I supposed to do? I saw this couple and she had a stale roll in her hand. This is all in the dream, and I said, oh, don't eat that, let me make you a fresh one. I says, come with me, and put my key in the door, but it won't work. I couldn't open the door, and I woke up shouting, I always use this key. I just don't know what's going on. So I wrote that down in the diary. And then about 6 weeks later...
I had a dream. I can't remember any of my dreams, but I can remember this dream back in 2008 as if it was yesterday. Well, I was actually going into Asda's locally, and outside the store was a young man holding a piece of cardboard written on there and said, wife and 3 children. I must go and buy them 3 days supply of food. And I went and bought 2 tins of corned beef. That comes from when we were in the war. I thought it was 3 days, but having been brought up during the war years, my old mum would make 2 tins of beef, corned beef last 3 days. It was cut so thin.
Yeah, you live that.
You can always live the opposite daylight so you cut it so thin. I said, I had this dream and she said, wow.
So I got my diary out and said, look at this.
And effectively, in religious terms, that was the key to open the door that she couldn't open.
More could be done.
Like what?
More housing, I don't know. More places that you can get jobs, I don't know. There's a lot.
Housing?
Well, maybe.
That means more cars and more traffic and more road problems for you. You'd be furious.
Yeah, would be furious, but I don't know. I mean, that's the way everything. I mean, they're not going to just say, "All right, knock down that building and let's put a field over it."
There's always an issue of getting that balance right between enough new houses to make it possible for the youngsters who are growing up to be able to afford a house, for people who want to come here to work or retire, there's housing for them, but at the same time protecting the quality of the environment. And I say 2 of the priorities of the county are, one, to keep it prosperous, and I know that's our job, but at the same time to respect and enhance where we can the quality of the environment. Those are what make Hampshire great.
Housing. Government is struggling to find places where you can build new houses to accommodate the large population generated by immigration and the demands also generated by family breakdown. And that is proving very challenging indeed because people don't want to see the green belt built on. Well, where else are you going to build in? Run out of brownfield sites you can develop.
The big pressure here is really on affordable housing. Although Rushmoor has more affordable homes in terms of the costs of housing in Rushmoor are lower than the adjoining Surrey areas. But if you're a young person or a young family with low income and children, getting your first rung onto the first rung of the ladder is really difficult.
I think that Farnborough is a peculiar area, shall we say, because especially if I think where this college is situated, you can look out of this window to see, rural Hampshire, lovely multi-million-pound houses, and then look out of windows on this side to look at an estate that's in the social indexes being really high and with a lot of social need.
We're very lucky, actually, in being, a pretty vibrant area. I think the council, with all their problems, do a reasonable job. I look out the window, the grass is cut, there is a trolley in the pond.
But there's one thing we know, this building work that affects us and leaves us breathless. It won't be long till Barnet Council make all of us homeless. Regeneration must benefit the local people first and foremost. This is the principle upon which we developed our proposals. That was what was stated. That's not happened.
What's going to happen to this flat then?
This will eventually get pulled down.
So what's the deal for you then? What are you going to do?
I'm staying here. There's not a real housing crisis. If you go down the main road, you'll see the estate agents. They're not shutting up shop. The builders are not shutting up shop. The well-off are not having to sell their properties or anything. It's just people at the bottom who are suffering. And that is because, one, they started selling off all the council properties in the first place. Two, the maggot deliberately instructed that not a penny, not one penny was allowed to be put into building new council properties. That was absolute strict. Whether you're in a hospital, you're born, you're having medical treatment, whether you're at school, whether you're travelling by bus or transport, where you're living, where you're working, you're going to be told what to do by private entrepreneurs or private companies. No point in having a government anymore, you might as well sack the lot, because they've got no jurisdiction over these pods. You don't elect them, you don't know who they are, you got quibbles, tough. Sit and suck, basically what they're doing. So the whole entire democracy is going out the window.
I'm telling you, we're gonna get everything that we want to. I'm telling you, we're gonna get everything that we want to. We're gonna buy a mansion. We're gonna buy a mansion. Stand by me and I'll stand by you. Just promise me you will too. Stand by me and I'll stand by you. Just promise me you will too. We're gonna buy a mansion. We're gonna buy a mansion. I will lead and you will too. All the things that we can do. I will lead and you will too. All the things that we can do. We're gonna buy a mansion.
We're a centre, a day centre. We offer a journey programme. We deal predominantly with single homeless and those that are socially isolated. That's probably on the ground floor level. We then move up onto the first floor, where that's where we offer Job Club, GASP, which is a drug and alcohol group, anger management, literacy, amongst other things. There is a lot of homelessness at the moment, but recorded last month on our stats, street homeless and those that are crossing between street homeless and sofa surfing, there was 38.
Just for Rushmoor?
Yeah, and that's not including the hidden homeless. There's a lot of people that are sofa surfing that we don't, that aren't connecting with us at the moment.
So 38, given the density of the area, is actually quite a high number, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Why do you think there is such a homeless problem in Aldershot in particular?
Because we haven't got enough provision. There's a lot of different issues. I mean, you could go back to the government because of funding cuts, because of benefit cuts, house landlord prices and stuff like that. A review needs to be made of housing benefit because it's not covering
The cost of even a room, they're having to pay top up £20. If you're only getting 70 odd quid a week, it's a lot. Landlords won't take people on housing benefit. The rent deposits that the councils are offering because of funding cuts aren't big enough.
What can the average person do about it now? Can they get involved in things or?
They can get involved in things if they get off their arse. They stop watching Coronation Street, stop watching blogs and all these silly things. I mean, I've listened to Absolute Radio. Is it's commercial radio. And what do they keep telling you? See that CIS program the other, and Game of Thrones, King of Thrones, or whatever it is. So, you didn't watch it? Don't worry. There's a full blog. You could sit the next couple of days and do catch up on your blog, and watch all that. Yeah, but you know what's going on? You got the European referendum. You had the mayor's elections. Yeah, but let's watch King of Thrones. Let's do all the backlog. So deliberately encouraging people not to get involved. This is commercial radio, commercial telly. All the time it's going on about Benefit Street, and it's always the same messages. How bad the underclass is. You've got to keep them, they're scum. You've got to be picking on those people. So people got to open their eyes and realise these are there for a reason. You're being pumped this for a reason. Because they don't want you to wake up, look at them and say who the real culprits are. Because once you do, we are the masses. We can make a change. We can make a massive change. And the amount of people that turn around and say, what can I do? What can we do? And you think, how about a big plank of wood going across your head?
What about the parks in Farnborough? Because we have a play park here, and there are some other parks in Farnborough, aren't there? There's the Moor Road Park, and there's a park near Totland, and there's the King George,
I know that.
So what do you like about...
And there's Queen Lizzie.
Yeah, so what parks do you visit, and what are they like?
Queen Lizzie has a good voice.
I know what you are, you're not the tide, you're the wind, blowing me about, tearing me limb from limb. I thought we were safe, I thought you'd carry me always. You pull up the earth, you toss the ground in my face.
We're going to be talking about a thing that I don't really know much about when it comes to global warming.
You can't hurt me now, you can't hurt me now.
It affects the seasons, doesn't it? Again, it doesn't affect me directly.
You can't hurt me now, you can't hurt me now.
So climate change is exactly what it says. It's a change in the climate, but you have to be a little bit clear about what that means, of course, because climate has always changed in the past on a number of timescales and over a number of regions. But what we're seeing now is that the surface temperature, the average surface temperature of the globe, rising faster than it has ever happened before.
Why is it relevant? Like you say, it affects people.
Well, you might think if you live in, the southeast of England, or indeed any part of England, a bit more warming, a bit more rain or whatever, we don't mind, we quite like it, it'll be like the Mediterranean, fine. Unfortunately, that sort of attitude won't fit everywhere. So if you, for example, you're living in a low-level island in the Indian Ocean and you're going to be submerged, you can't really be told to get on with it.
I don't know, I mean, there's always the risk of running out of things. We're talking like a long time in the future though, aren't we? In terms of like running out of resources and shit. And maybe use light energy or some shit like that. A little bit more, and not just necessarily with cars, but just like solar panels on the roofs of houses and just examples like that. Maybe recycle more things that you don't think you can recycle at the moment. Stuff like that, really. There's only so much you can do with particular areas, isn't there? I mean, there's not exactly the land, unless you want to chop down loads of trees and stuff, but you don't want to do none of that, do you? Because then it will take away all the
you know, preserve. You got to preserve the nature, the niceness of it.
What role do you think corporations have in affecting life?
Do you want to get me started? Well, it's the fact that they always appear to be doing good things and are praised for Coca-Cola reducing its sugar content, and yet the amount of water it uses in its plants in India that means that the people in India have no fresh water because Coca-Cola's taken it up. I mean, there's so many global issues.
What would you say to the cynics who say, oh, the history of the earth is cyclical and these things are, you know, you can see it in the history and nothing's changed, there is no dramatic effect by man?
I think the scientific consensus and the evidence, everything that's being seen on the ground is just way past that as a topic for discussion. That is not the discussion that we should be having, and I think it's very disappointing when the media kind of focus on the is it, isn't it, so on, whereas actually what we should be talking about is, you know, what energy sources can we use, what's the most cost effective way of getting to a safe, you know, a safe economy, a sustainable economy quickly. Those are the worthwhile discussions to be having.
So there's two issues here. One is the rate of change, which the temperature is going up faster than it's ever done in any of the records we've got before. That is without doubt, so, you know, that's a big deal. Secondly, the carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere is higher than it has been for probably 3 million years. Now, to put that into context, humans only appeared on Earth something like 200,000 years ago. So life on Earth has never existed in the way it is now with the current levels of carbon dioxide. There is an important message. We talk about 2 degrees. And you might argue, is 2 degrees okay? Perhaps we might like 3 degrees. But the point is that if you want the temperature to plateau out at any value at all, you've got to stop net CO2 emissions, because any increase will increase the temperature.
Paradoxically, one of the things that happens when the climate gets warmer is that it can mean that you actually have more extreme cold weather. So when people used to talk about global warming, then every time you'd have a cold day in the winter, people would go say, ha, there's no global warming. So that's why they've phrased climate change. But basically what it means is the understanding that because of what we're doing, because of our producing power, driving around in our cars and so on, we're affecting the climate. So the norms within which the temperature can be is shifting and getting broadly warmer.
And I think the biggest problem, as you rightly say, is the destruction of the planet itself, the ecosystems that we depend on. And the planet, of course, we've got, but the ecosystems are precious. Oh, yeah. We're losing our air, we're losing our soil, we're losing our forests, we're losing our wildlife. And so this labyrographic represents all of the wildlife on the planet when I was born. So I'm talking about all of the animals, birds, fish, amphibians, etc., okay? When I was born. In just my 56 years, I'm not talking about the number of species, I'm talking about the total numbers. We've eliminated half. In less than one person's lifespan. If I live another, okay, I'm 56, let's say I'm lucky and live another 30 years. We might have 10 or 15% left by the time I kick the bucket.
What more do you think average people can do to help?
Be aware, just think. I think there's so many people that they're just so busy in their own life and their celebrities on TV or food there is or clothes they've got that if you think politics isn't to do with them, and if they don't vote in the elections, then we're never going to change anything.
I noticed that lots of other people kind of in the sort of environmental movement widely were suddenly talking about food as being like this really, really important issue. That basically, never mind how our transport systems work, never mind how we generate electricity, actually the main thing for climate change is what people eat. And this was kind of really, really sudden. It was like between one demo and the next, suddenly all the placards were about being vegetarian.
We need to change our agricultural system, we need to eat less meat, or have much more efficient processes of producing meat. It's not all doom and gloom. It's just, we just need to think how we do things properly.
A comparison between the Yanomami and us. They've lived in their environment for 20,000 years. in balance with it. And they're called savages. And our civilization, within 150 years of the Industrial Revolution, we are putting the entire ecosystems of the entire planet at risk. And a story that kind of really brought this home to me was the first morning I was with the Yanomami. I was woken up, and this family and a couple of other people dragged me out into the forest. And I was a dancer at the time, so I thought I was pretty fit. And they were gone. And I was terrified. Like, I didn't have a mobile phone. this was like 92. I thought, if I lose them, I'm like 3 hours by jet from the nearest road and 10 days by boat from the nearest airport. I'm lost.
That's real loss.
Yeah. So like, I was a little bit nervous. Anyway, I managed to keep up with them. And we came to a clearing, and there was a dead float in the clearing. And the family got around, they skinned it and cut it up, the meat, to bring back to the village. And the reason why we had to go out and get the meat is that in their culture, a hunter cannot eat or bring back the game he kills. Now what's interesting about that is they then eat meat around once every 10 days, week to 10 days. Because greed can't get a hold of it. You know, if you've got to nag your husband to go and get some meat, and he's not going to actually benefit from it, there's an inbuilt lethargy there. And what that, probably lost in the midst of time where that custom comes from. But what it does, it means that they don't kill too many animals. So the forest replenishes itself, it stays in balance. What do? We go down to the supermarkets, they're in polythene, we don't link any link with that, with the animal, or the life, or the food, or the huge amount of land that's required to create meat. So we've got rashes for breakfast, sausages for lunch, and maybe a steak for dinner. We have meat 3 times a day. We get overfed, we're overweight, we're obese, we're unfit, and the planet goes up in smoke.
Bride Hall, they bought this plot of land, and they own the Fir Grove Parade. They are a British company, registered somewhere like the Cayman Islands where they pay their taxes, not here. There was a covenant protecting this green area which Rushmoor sold them behind closed doors.
£1,000.
Something like that, so the public didn't know they'd even done it. And then the next thing you know, they turn up here, the tree surgeons turn up here and to come take down all the trees. No consultation, nobody knowing about it. That's when I got Peter put it up on Facebook that they're up there trying to take the trees down. I literally ran up the road and then became involved in trying to save this green area.
It became a wonderful little campaign.
It did.
We had everyone from tiny children to the elderly residents at the houses here come and join us, and it was lovely, and it showed that Farnborough does really care about itself, really.
And then D-Day came, and they made sure they brought the riot police here with their batons and their helmets and their great big shields, and they cleared us and made it quite clear that if we didn't go, they would arrest us for aggravated trespass, which means it carries a jail sentence. And that day, they brought down all the trees, and now we have this instead of a tree-filled green space. This time of year, 3 years ago, would be full of cherry blossom. Had 3 huge cherry trees on it. And instead we've got this testament to capitalism.
You can love whoever you like. I no longer think of you as mine. You can love whoever you like. I no longer think of you as mine.
I'm the I was going to say the intelligent side of me. The rational side of me looks at the science and looks at the political forces raged against us and said, we've run out of time. It's not possible. The spiritual side of me, or my gut says, I will always light a candle, because you never know. You never know what may happen. The candle could set a fire, and the fire might actually save us in time. We don't know. There may be some feedback mechanism in nature that we don't know about that may delay the catastrophe that's now on our doorstep.
People don't agree with us trying to bomb the shit out of everything, and they think they're trying to get rid of ISIS and that by doing it, but it's not. It's just like a vicious circle, basically, isn't it?
Do you think people have a healthy, objective view of the military?
I think many people have personal links to the military. Either they've been in themselves, are in themselves, have relatives or close friends who've been in the military. So they, I think, are more likely to have a kind of real balanced understanding of the military. I think a lot of people who don't have that link tend to have a sanitised, sometimes glamorised view of the military.
Do you feel fighting for your country was worth it?
Yes, however it makes you think.
What is actually war like? What is military training like? What are the downsides? What are the risks that people are potentially going to be faced with in the armed forces? What are the unique legal restrictions? It's not like any other job in that sense at all. What are the ethical dilemmas? What is it ultimately to have to kill on order?
And mental health issues.
Very much
given
so.
the experiences they've had, they're on the streets, the mental health issues, there isn't aftercare, is there really?
There isn't any aftercare, no. We've got some people in place that are doing PTSD courses and stuff. All voluntary, all non-profitable, fantastic. It's just getting the word out. Do we want the oil and stuff, and do we want from a political point of view, hypothetically speaking, the governments and their different parties probably do want all that, yes. So they'll just throw out cannon fodder.
Defence firms, what? Clarify? Okay, so is Farnborough got that, you're saying? It's more Aldershot, isn't it? Because Aldershot's the military side of things. Farnborough have just got the aviation side of things, I don't...
It's a defence orientated constituency. It has the home of the British Army in Aldershot. Farnborough is the birthplace of British aviation. It is the headquarters of BAE Systems, the world's fourth largest defence contractor. Home to the headquarters of Kinetic, one of the leading defence research companies in the world. We have Fleur, just down the road from where we're sitting now, which is a major chemical engineering company.
There's going to be the Farnborough Arms Fair coming up this week, and each year, every time where it happens, the arms dealers have a networking event and reception event at the Science Museum.
Remind the Prime Minister that next Monday the greatest air show in the world takes place at Farnborough in my constituency, to which all honourable and right honourable members are expected to attend. And may I remind my right honourable friend that last time, 2 years ago, deals worth $201 billion were signed at the Farnborough Air Show.
there's good and bad points. I mean, good points is it's, you know, this town is famous for it. It's famous for its what's the word for planes? Aerodynamic.
Aviation.
Yeah, aviation. Yeah, it's obviously famous for that, and it's where like a lot of things were like materialised and kicked off and stuff. So I can appreciate all of that history and stuff, but some of it can be frustrating, like the road changes and stuff, and just disruption.
What contribution do you think the air show's made to Farnborough?
It's caused traffic chaos every time it happens. There must be a huge financial input to the local hotel industry and so on, and of course it's given it huge worldwide fame. But there are better air shows in the sense that this one really was a trade show with an air show attached to it.
Directly, it affects me massively because I'm quite close to the site where it all happens.
Right.
And every single road around here is turned into a one-way. So, yeah, there's like delays all over the place, and it's just annoying. But it's only once every couple of years, so it's just something that I just need to get on with basically for a couple of weeks. But it gets annoying.
Why does the Prime Minister attend the air show?
I don't know, just to show that he's interested in things that smaller towns are doing.
Okay. Why would people protest against the air show?
I don't know, noise.
I'm here tonight because my child is going to be born in 4 months' time. It's going to... Thank you. It's a son. He's going to be born into a world where, in this country, 1 million people have needed to use a food bank in the last year, while at the same time, arms dealers can enjoy £246 a head dinners. That is more money than someone on job seekers allowance gets to live on for an entire month.
I thought it was just a couple of days having a nice look at some planes. Then realised it was trade stuff.
And my honourable friend, the member for Aldershot, was telling me last night what a great air show it was. Of course, the government committed at Farnborough to provide a new £365 million fund for research and development to ensure that we retain our leading position in this sector. And as he said, there are a significant number of trade deals already signed. That shows Britain's open for business, and I would encourage other companies to go out there and get that business.
Okay, so 172430 United Hate Crime Campaign was set up in 2009. It's actually the date of the 3 now bomb attacks on Brixton, Brick Lane and Soho. So David Copeland planted 3 bombs over 3 weekends. So the 17th of April was Brixton, 24th of April was Brick Lane, and then the 30th of April was the pub in Soho. During that time he injured, I think it was about 150 people and killed 3 people in Soho. Basically, as a child he was picked on at school, he had small genitalia, and as a result of that he was labelled as gay, even though he wasn't gay, and that caused him to have a real resentment of gay people. Every year there's acts of remembrance in those 3 areas, Brixton, Brick Lane and Soho. About 120 people come together in St Anne's Gardens to remember the 3 people who died in the Soho bomb. So Nick Moore, John Lai and Andrea Dykes. So we're the three people we lost, but they are remembered every year with much love by their family and friends.
To me, there's a couple of gold coins. One of them is birth and breeding, and with that comes class. And I think another one is BMI and good looks. and your good looks, as long as you're not a person of colour, I think female, dropping there's any number, or that you have an arm that stops here. Anything that impedes, that gets in the way or diminishes those gold coins, almost takes away the value of the coins. Discrimination is very subtle. Like I can't hold hands with my partner in public. Other people can, and it doesn't matter. But there's times when it would be just a lovely, lovely thing to do, but we don't do it. Because I've learned that if I do that, then I risk getting a kick up the ass or whatever. As has happened in the past. I know plenty of people that are afraid to say what their true sexual orientation is in my work and in other fields of work. And I know people that are afraid to come out in their friendship groups, and the friendship groups appear to be okay and cool, because it's just, you are still swimming against the tide.
It brought communities together, and since then there's been a lot of changes and a lot of progress made, tackling homophobia, tackling racism, some of the newer issues that are coming through, so disability hate crime, faith hate crime. A lot of good has come out of a bad moment.
Racism is more basically directed towards Islam right now. In Europe there's some anti-Semitism as well, but it's mostly Islam, and that's why we're treating refugees as if they're just not even human. It's just insane, you know, like refusing entry to 3,000 kids the other day. MPs just voted to refuse entry to 3,000 unaccompanied children in Europe.
So yes, very much, yes, it is the whole community here living, or want to live in very much harmony with, it doesn't matter what color we are, you know, we want to more integrate with all society, because it's England is now multicultural.
Remember, just a couple of months ago, up the road in Camberley, there was the whole issue of whether the mosque should be built, and we had the local Conservatives who were in support of it. I came in as the local MEP, stirred it all up, got a debate going, and the Conservatives changed their mind.
The first round of the went through the planning. We got the planning, but I think next day what happened is they made a technical error.
So people are complaining from, even some people not living within the Surrey, making a complaint and making a really very bad remark or comment. And that was sort of like really very sad moment for us. Whereas we are a very minority community, and they could handle it much more better way, you know. I think like we can sit down, we can discuss about it.
I've done just a bit of research recently on support for extremism in the Muslim British community, and it's, you know, it's almost indistinguishable between a Muslim living in a, you know, heavily Muslim area and a Muslim in a mainly white area. But the person in the mainly white or mixed area is more likely to support extremism than the Muslim who's living in a heavily Muslim area, which is against what you might think. But in any case, it's not a big effect.
This is the difficulty. It's like this is the politics of poverty, though, isn't it? It's, you see these arguments rear their head when people are close to the breadline. You know, that's what always happens. It's what happened in Nazi Germany. It's why you know, the Nazis came to power.
And if people come here, they should recognise it's a Christian country. If you don't like living in a Christian country, go and live somewhere else, because we don't want you here. And there are plenty of other countries around the world which don't share our values. And we face a real challenge, security challenge, from Islamic fundamentalism. To those who say, well, why do you single out Muslims? They've singled themselves out. We do not face a challenge from the Jewish community. We don't face a challenge from Hindus, Buddhists, or Sikhs. We face a challenge from people who are behaving in the most medieval, barbaric fashion. And we, as indigenous population, have got to stand up against this and make it absolutely clear that if you do not respect our values, go and live somewhere else.
How long was you in the British Army for?
Was in the British Army for 31 years.
Do you feel there's a good community in Farnborough?
Yes, I mean, like any other communities, when you first come in, obviously there will be apprehension, and I don't blame the local community. Suddenly seeing hordes of new faces, brown new faces rather, there was a big misconception when you see the old veterans walking about in the morning. They thought that they were extended families of Gurkhas, like fathers and mothers. Oh, they brought everyone, lock, stock and barrel. But then I had to tell them that that is not the case. Those old people you see are actually veterans.
We have invested heavily in community integration, addressing the myths that existed amongst people around the Nepalese. The Nepalese themselves have put enormous effort into seeking to integrate. They generate business and economic growth, particularly the younger members of the community.
It's not an issue, no. I mean, there's more of them coming over type thing. There's more of them around, but they seem to go more to Aldershot than Farnborough, but it doesn't. I don't really have any kind of issues with it. I mean, they're just trying to live a life like everyone else.
I think it would be much better for the country. It would lead to much more harmonious relations if we could, as it were, I won't say spread the problem, but it is a problem for us here. But if other parts of the country, where the Gurkhas are very welcome and they're highly respected across the land, if they were to go there.
You've used the word problem. Some people would have issue with that.
Well, that's their problem.
I think the community now is strong and getting stronger. We have been through a difficult period, there's no question about that. After the Joanna Lumley campaign and the sudden, very sharp increase in the population of former Gurkhas and their families did create some social tensions over a period, not because anyone had anything against the Gurkhas, the Nepalese, but it was the speed of change that destabilised some of the settled community, and I understand and respect that.
Joanna Lumley campaign, sadly, she did a good job, mind you. I've got nothing against her, but my only concern is, during that phase in 2009, I actually wrote to her. We were not totally... We supported it because it was a Gurkha issue, mind you, because there are so many other Gurkha organisations as well. And we knew the whole story or the whole scenario, So when Joanna Lumley got involved, we were glad in a way because a big celebrity like Joanna getting involved with the Gurkha justice. So I had to write to her to explain that Gurkha justice is not just settlement. I said more important is pensions, equal pensions. If you're getting involved, you can't come half-heartedly, And I thought that a settlement, yes, I mean, it's a Gurkha right because you've served the crowd. But equally, if not more important, is equal pensions because that will give the Gurkhas a choice where to live. Because with equal pensions, you can live in Timbuktu or back in Nepal as well. You can live a very comfortable life.
We've obviously had a massive challenge with the 10,000 Nepalese, many of whom elderly, don't speak English, don't understand our customs. Came here as a result of a completely ill-founded campaign by an actress who just sort of played on the emotions.
Not only done something so honourable and so fine to all our Gurkha soldiers and ex-soldiers, but for the people of Britain, you have enabled us to show our great debt of honour. And through your governments, you have done something so special that I think only history will see in clarity exactly what an enormous step this is today. And for that I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And from all of us we want to say, Ayoga Kala!
For the local community it's also been a difficult time. But today marks, I think, a turning point. Sorry I can't stay beyond a few minutes. That is because I have to depart from London Heathrow this afternoon on a trade mission of United Kingdom defence companies, which I am leading. So if you'll forgive me, I won't be here to enjoy all the festivities, but I wish you a very wonderful day.
The tragedy, the earthquake in Nepal was massive, and everyone knows that. But we were so humbled by it, the overwhelming support that the local community, without even asking, So we really feel part of the community. We owe the community quite a lot, And we do want to be a proactive, productive part of this lovely community we have here in Farnborough.
Where did you vote on the EU?
Or did you vote?
I was unable to vote due to the fact I couldn't register in time.
Why is today important? Well, I think it's time we stood on our own feet again in this country and got the great back into Great Britain, as far as I'm concerned.
You're going to flip a coin?
You don't really know, do you?
No.
It's anyone's guess. I don't know. Have a chance one way or the other. I put a question both.
Both?
Yeah.
You spoiled your ballot paper?
Well, it's fair, isn't it?
In out, shake it all about and then turn about.
How do you feel about Europe and the EU? What, the Euro thing? What, European Union?
Yeah, and Europe and the EU and Britain's position within it.
Okay, so is that who decides if there's wars and shit?
At the moment, for instance, with trade deals, what happens is 28 different countries all want something from a trade deal, say with China. So what happens is no one gets what they want. The trade deal isn't right for any of the 28 nations. If you're in a restaurant with 27 friends, 26 friends given this to you, and you all sit down and you start to say, well, we can only have one meal here. What are we going to have? 20 of you are going to hate what you're having. 5 of you will be allergic to it. And maybe 6 will be happy with it.
A lot of the things that are most useful that you can do don't feel very useful. So, I mean, one thing I did, I was part of a group that cycled down to Dover and got the ferry over to Calais and donated the bikes that we'd rode down on, because people in the jungle need bikes. They need to get around town. They can't afford public transport. In theory, it was a very, very useful thing to do. While we were trying to have a meeting to discuss this, other people who were very keen to have a bike and worried that they wouldn't get one were trying to cut through the locks with clippers. And as soon as people saw that they were doing that, they thought, well, if I don't join in, I won't get one either. So, sort of on the journey down, it really felt like we were doing something. But once we got there, we realised that there was a minimum amount that we could have done, and it might have been more useful to sort of work an extra shift and donate the money.
We wouldn't be in favour of removing anyone's rights. And they talk about, again, the inners say, if we leave, we're going to have to kick out all these European citizens who are here. No, we won't. You have to treat people with fairness and with justice. Those people came here legally, and they're making a life here. We allowed them into this country. For us to turn around and say, well, we've changed our mind now. How could that possibly be just?
Areas that have more rapid ethnic change tend to, for example, have higher support for the BNP. Part of this is, once they come to terms with diversity, then in many cases attitudes actually become less anti-immigration and less supportive of the far right. But it's that sense, it's the change from a world you knew to a world that's unfamiliar.
I think we should just 100% stay in. I don't even know why. It's a question. What, you want to go back 30 years? Oh yeah, things were great 30 years ago when we didn't have the internet. I don't know. It's this kind of weird, sentimental attitude that British people have. We're all just harking back to the British Empire and when Britain was great, which is, over 100 years ago now. We should just drop it.
It's easy to say migration is a big issue for this country. Migrant, actually a EU migrant, so even a specific animal given the current referendum. Clearly the solution cannot ignore the history of mankind, which has been a history of movement across the world.
I think it's important for our children, our grandchildren and my great-grandchildren. I mean, all right, I voted in 75, I'm old enough. We were never told it was going to be turned out with straight Weekly cucumbers.
My old mum brought up 4 kids under 5 with the old man away at war.
Yeah.
Well, no such thing as benefit them, mate.
Do you think the welfare state was a good thing when it was introduced?
The welfare state? No, I don't think any state's a good thing, is it?
The immigration problem, maybe.
Yeah, it's definitely the main issue.
Yes, the main issue for us. Countrywide, I think it is having a major effect. And I think there needs to be some sort of limit.
If I had the choice, but then there's arguments on both sides, but I probably would have leaned towards leave, but it's naive because more people went for leave and I just went for the more people side of things. I didn't actually know the finer details of it. It just seemed like what people were saying, it would be more beneficial to leave as opposed to stay in terms of like costs and stuff, and we've been in it before. Well, staying in the EU, I don't know how it works, but things would have gone up, like petrol prices go up and food goes up and stuff like that if we stayed in the EU. Yeah. That's what I thought, or that's what people were saying anyway, but there's obviously more bullet points to it, but...
Well, the next question was, have you learned anything from the EU debate?
Don't always believe what government says. I'd rather watch Gordon Ramsay than see what Donald Trump's doing.
There's been loads of people like Trump before. Loads. American history is littered with their corpses, right? But they do a lot of damage in the short run.
You know, look at Donald Trump, who's going to win the leadership of the Republican Party. He won't win. He won't win. No. No, there's no chance. There's no possible chance. Even the radical Republicans, you know, even what you'd call the Tea Party Republicans, well, once they catch on that in the past Trump has stood for everything, you know, he used to be one of Hillary Clinton's biggest donors. You know, he's only about Trump.
Somebody like Trump were to get in, which I don't think he will, then that could be a different game. I mean, obviously his influence culturally and on racial questions is terrible. You know, the atmosphere. And that's why he's basically hated by most Americans. He alienates far more people than he attracts. Even in the Republican primaries, he's only managed to get about 40% of the actual primary vote. That's 60% who are not for Trump. And they're not just neutrally not for Trump, they're like easy come, easy go. They hate him. But that's, you know, he's had $2 billion of mainstream media, free advertising. And what are they doing with that airtime? They're not analysing and dissecting and critiquing his racism and misogyny and homophobia and all this kind of stuff. It's more like, oh my God, he's getting all this support.
What do you make of the current state of the media, or do you believe it's politically biased and has freedom?
80% of our papers are owned by 5 extremist right-wing billionaires. But they not only own the papers, they also own the TV stations, radio stations, news agencies, book publishing companies, cinemas, cinema production companies. So almost everything you and I look at, watch or listen to has been affected by these 5 right-wing extremists.
I don't know, I mean, everyone wants to know what the news is, don't they? The only ones that it can affect directly are the people that they keep like celebrities and shit. Yeah, I don't really look on like BBC News. I know.
So occasional TV news is the only news you receive?
More or less, yeah, and like maybe through Facebook and stuff. If I occasionally have a day off and I want to just like, I've got a minute, I'll buy a Sun and read what's going on, or if there's been like a decent result in the football.
I think actually most people in this country do care. They do think the media is important. They do care about news and current affairs, even if they don't necessarily watch the news all that regularly. They do think that it's important. It's important really because it informs us about what's going on in the world. It informs us about the kind of decisions and actions that are being taken in our name by our governments. and ultimately it's a basic human right.
People say that the media doesn't influence people, and I just don't think that's the case. You know, I mean, everyone keeps saying, "Oh, this will be the election where social media will be the big influence," and it never is.
It's great fun doing my job. I mean, say I've done lightsaber lessons. I've not only got the town talking about a secret car park, but I don't know if you saw it was on the One Show.
The One Show Fool of the Year.
Oh, it gets better than that.
It does, and it doesn't get any better than this. It's the car park that's only accessible on foot. It's in Farnborough, it's in Hampshire, it's in the town centre above the local gym complex, a full-scale car park with parking bays, disabled parking bays, all the signs. It's been there for 5 years. There is no way to get a car up to it. It is accessible to pedestrians. You can get, there's a lift, there's a stairs, but there's no way you can get a car up there. 5 years it's been there. In due course, the council is planning, as part of the Farnborough plan, for there to be a linking bridge. But for 5 years it's been a secret car park.
An empty car.
An empty car park. But tonight it's being honoured because we are presenting to it the One Show Fool of the Year.
I did a story the other week. It was another completely bizarre one that could probably only happen in Farnborough, but was brilliant. So this bunch of students took a cat to the FAST Museum, the Farnborough Science Trust. They filmed, they were doing some filming, and the cat, so they were in a helicopter doing some filming, and the cat got loose in the helicopter and went inside it somewhere, and they had to rip off panels to get this cat out. They got it out, the cat shoots off across the road and is lost, and someone phoned me yesterday saying he'd spotted it in his garden. People are feeding it, they're hoping to catch it, but they're gaining its trust.
Yeah, I don't trust the media, which is another reason why I wanted to do something of my own. Everyone has an agenda, and you can kind of see their agenda when like something political happens, or it's in their best interest to not report this, or to report this, or to slander this person, or not to. You know, I kind of, yeah, it's callous and it's scary, but people don't question it.
Tabloids are a little bit more light-hearted, and they'll put like stupid stuff in there, whereas, you know, if you had The Independent, you wouldn't be able to read about, you know, a kitten saving an old man or some shit.
We've got 0 hours contracts. We've got low wages for large sections of the population. We do attract inward investment, but what do we see as the consequence of all of that? Actually, it's now out of control, and we've got sort of the blame culture emerging as to why this is. And then, of course, the bogeyman in the room is immigration. Absolutely nothing to do with it.
I can afford to pay the rent and pay this and that, but I can't afford to put food on the table. And there, this low income, especially people, for example, on 0 hour contracts.
Yes.
You know, that this week they could be doing 40 hours, and I'm just using the figure, earning, shall we say, £200, £300 a week. Next week, they've got nothing. But because they're on a 0 hour contract, they get nothing.
Right, well, workers' rights, there's lots of different workers' rights that are enshrined in law. So you have the right to minimum wage, which is now £7.20. That's a UK-specific law. You have the right to paid time off, paid holidays, rest breaks, maximum working hours, entitlement to statutory sick pay. You now have entitlement to pension contributions from your employer. And then there are a number of other things, such as protection from discrimination.
The only reason we have freedom of movement of people is to keep down working class people's aspirations and living standards. If you've got a job now, you work in a factory, and you're on £8 an hour, and you say to your boss, "I've been working on this for 5 years. Your mortgage has gone up. My kids need new clothes. I'm not moving anywhere. I'm getting poorer. Give me a 5% pay rise." He'll say, "You know what, Sunbeam? Pick your tools up, get out. I'll have a Polo or a Latvian in here who'll work for less within 10 minutes. It's used as blackmail, and it's used to keep down working class people's aspirations. Even more than the living standards, it's aspirations. It's making you afraid of the boss. People say, "Oh, you hate these people." No, I remember what it was like in the 80s. When lots and lots of my friends, they all feed the same pet thing, Lots and lots of my friends went out to Germany because they couldn't get work in this country. That was what they're being used for, to keep down German workers' incentives. And this will happen all the time. So you don't blame the people who are doing it, because any of us in their position would do exactly the same.
You know, gone are the days when you had a job for life. Gone are the days when you would walk out of university and into a job, you'd walk out of college and into a job. We know that that just doesn't happen anymore. A certificate that says that you're clever is no longer enough to secure you a job. And being good at your job is no longer enough to secure you a job for life.
What about the job centres? They're not getting any help from them?
Yeah, they do, but a lot of them, and it's kind of a mental trap that they're in, really. They see the job centre as, well, we're just, you've missed your appointment, you're going to get sanctioned, your benefits stop. So actually that develops a really kind of negative relationship with the job centre. Nothing to do with the job centre's fault at all, they're just doing their role at the end of the day. But then they get that perception. We've also got young people who won't sign on. So because of the stigma attached with being on benefits, which is really quite interesting, they'll rob or they'll deal drugs, but they won't sign on. One of the things that we've experienced is young people don't know how to talk in an interview, so it's about doing that coaching. It's about enabling them to realise what a business environment, what a working environment expects of them, and that's a big thing. The young person I was talking about earlier had never walked into a hotel when she went for her interview. So you and I wouldn't even begin to think about that, because we've all been in working environments, and I've been started working in Woolies when I was 14. So you've grown up with that, but at 20, never have had an interview, never have walked into a hotel and then going for an interview as a housekeeper. It's a massive thing.
For working class people, if you were in the same job, the same qualifications, everything's the same, you'd still be earning about £7,000 a year less. A young black guy in this country, a working class black guy, you are 50% likely to be unemployed. 50%.
We're losing lots of the shops, as you can see. We need more businesses coming here, other than just charity shops. If the rents go up, we'll probably have to go. And some of the other shops will. You've got to make money, and if the rents are too high, and obviously with the charity shop as well, we have to focus on buildings that the rent is quite low, so they're not going to be the really flashy modern shops. They're a bit more worn out looking shops, but it keeps all the costs down, so that's really important. So yeah, if our rent goes up, and I think that's already happened in some of the shops, the rents have gone up and we've lost them over there. And people that come and you think, give them a year. With our prices being low, with our clothes and everything, we can look after people like that. But if the prices go up, we have to move to a nicer shop, a bigger shop, and all our prices go up, and people on benefits struggle more.
My name's Derek Barfoot. I've been a postman for Farnborough Mail for just short of 30 years. So, I know my way around.
What do you think the future's looking like here?
The future in Farnborough? Well, I think everybody's going to have to adapt.
My dad's got a job.
Has he?
Everybody's got a job.
Everybody's got a job.
It's very disappointing to come shopping in Farnborough. It's all pound shops and cheap supermarkets, really.
If I have a frustration, that is that many of the higher paid, highly educated jobs, quite a few of those go to people who travel into the borough from outside, and many of our residents, particularly in some of the areas in the parts of Farnborough and Aldershot, travel out, so often to lower paid jobs.
We suffer from being very close to London. Now, in some ways, that's great. Obviously, we're not too far from Heathrow, and the M3's on our doorstep, which is all very good. There's an extent to which towns like Farnborough and Aldershot can almost become sort of taken over by London. They can become places where people go to sleep.
I think likewise, our sort of epicentre here is with this bit of Cove Road, with now Tesco's Express, the one stop, which a lot of folks go to both, and a lot of our local folks work at those two places. And then, so, with the barbers and ourselves, these are places where people gather.
Farnborough is or was a lovely small community that's had its town centre completely trashed by Rushmoor Borough Council. They call it their master plan, which I remember Hitler had one of those. They've chased all the independent traders out of Farnborough town centre. It's just a generic mishmash of chain stores that you could see in every other town centre in the country. Why would you want to come to Farnborough to go shopping? It's got nothing unique to offer.
In town, I remember all the shops that used to be there, and then they slowly but surely, one at a time, whittled away, and then they ended up being nothing. And then it was like boarded up for about 2 years, 3 years, and then suddenly there was a Sainsbury's or some shit. So it loses its kind of charm when it does that. It's not a big enough town. It's not. There's only so much you can do with it. It's not got enough interest. It's just Farnborough, isn't it?
I have great sympathy for young people nowadays. I mean, when I was, a teenager and into my sort of early 20s, life for me, I think, was much less challenging than it is for young people now.
We very much are aware of the pressures of government, and you could view that so narrowly and just do a very narrow curriculum focusing on English and maths. But we want to make sure that our children grow up and have a full awareness of the whole of the curriculum to develop skills and understanding, knowledge, not just skills for life, but to carry on being lifelong learners. These children have to have good life skills. They have to have good self-esteem. They have to feel good about themselves. They have to be able to relate to other people, whether they're children and peers or whether they're adults around them.
What would you like to do when you're older?
Be a fashion designer.
Oh yeah, and you?
Don't really have one yet.
No?
Fashion design?
Yep.
Yeah, work together.
Yeah, policeman.
Oh, good.
What would you like to be when you're older?
Footballer, presumably.
Yep.
So we can raise more money.
I see. And you?
A nurse.
A nurse. Very good.
Yeah.
And you? Do you know?
Hairdresser.
Yep. And you?
To create cars. You've got a job.
Yeah.
To go to school.
Oh, very good. To learn. You like learning?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's good fun.
What's your favourite subjects?
Maths.
Maths.
Everybody?
Science.
What was that one? Science, that's a good one.
Actually, sometimes when we look at these models around the world and they're held in high esteem, actually some of these models are very different to even what we are being led to believe is the right way, like the testing regimes. We test more than most countries around the world, and definitely from what I know of some of the high performing countries, many of them just don't test at all.
I just think that we should allow things to settle instead of keep changing things all the time. That's very much a personal view, not a college view. But I think that, if it's not broke, why do we constantly keep trying to fix it? And why do we keep trying to say, these students are just not good enough. These young people are, too many of them are getting GCSEs and A-levels. We can't have that. We've got to make it even harder for them to achieve. And that's not realistic.
I think we should abolish private schools, and I think everyone should have a fair chance. Obviously you can't help what you're born into, but if you're kind of put into this upper echelon where, you're entitled to do what you want and you have this school motto which is like drumming stuff into you, then I think it breeds this kind of unease with the rest of society. Like the majority of people in the UK don't go to private school, yet the majority of people in university have come from private school. That's another thing with education. They don't teach you to question things anymore. You're literally just taught to pass the test.
Kids who go to a poor school in, for example, middle of Nottingham, by the time they're 10 or 11, their SAT results are pretty much the same as the kids that live in West Bridgford and go to the nicer state school. By the age of 16, that's disappeared. By the age of 16, 70% of the kids in the nicer school are getting good A to C GCSEs. It's something like 20% in the other school. So the inequalities are across and amongst and within.
Well, what I can say educationally for Farnborough is that our children were all brought up in Farnborough, and they went to, I thought, well, eventually the boys went to the grammar school, as it was then, and the daughter went to Aldershot. And so, you see, they had a good education, which is, in our day, my day, it was lacking, wasn't it? When you look at Farnborough, for example, you see how it's caught up. So I've nothing to complain about there.
But we haven't got a police station, have
No,
we?
that was bad.
Perhaps we don't need one, we're so law-abiding.
Oh yes, of course, Grace.
A lot of the problems that we deal with in the neighbourhood office tend to revolve around longer term issues, crime prevention and neighbour disputes.
Have you found the transition from the police station to the council offices?
That was really easy.
Yeah,
once it got going.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's really easy, and because we work so closely with other council members, it's just, we can just walk next door now and just find out the solution rather than having to arrange meetings, rather than having to send emails back and forth.
I feel safe, yeah. I don't think that. I don't know enough about behind the scenes that's going on. I mean, some areas in particular, they're known for being a little bit dodgy to be around type thing, like maybe late at night or something. But I'd feel safe, like strolling through the streets at like 10 o'clock at night, for example. I wouldn't really think anything was going to happen.
Yeah, we do a lot of work in terms of conflict management, in terms of what we do when we're getting additional training for dealing with public order situations, and police presence is always highlighted as the first level on diffusing any situation, just turning up.
We faced financial cuts, no question about that, and we potentially will be reducing our workforce at Rushmoor, but it will be a more efficient service. We will be more efficient in terms of the equipment we use to fight fire, and with our prevention strategies to actually prevent the incidents happening in the first place for domestic fires, road traffic collisions and general well-being in the home. Equipment will improve. We will have faster, more responsive vehicles. They'll be slightly smaller. In one instance they'll be slightly smaller. They'll carry a greater degree of equipment. We are making savings, efficiency savings, but it won't affect the cover or the service that the community need, and that was high on our agenda.
It would be a great loss to the town just to have another McDonald's here. Where is it? How are they going to service it? This is a very busy main road. People are telling me in Farnborough that, do we need another McDonald's? No, we don't. And the answer is, I don't think we do.
I'm a local resident in Farnborough. I've lived here pretty much all my life, and I was responsible for starting the campaign to save the Tumbledown Dick pub and music venue. I've been in music all my life, and it was a venue that I grew up with. I literally lived on the Farnborough Road as a child, and my parents used to drink there. Started a Facebook page called Save the Tumbledown Dick Pub and Live Music Venue. Also started a Facebook group, and it felt like within 24 hours, suddenly the campaign just went, it went viral within the town.
I'm going back to the Tumbledown
It was giving a much needed bit of social life to people that like live music. There really was nowhere else to go in Farnborough, and now it's closed down. There isn't anywhere else to go. I was very upset about it, but we gave it the benefit of the doubt, left it the year. I started writing to the council in 2009.
Firstly, I'd like to say that it is a great idea for a music venue in Farnborough. Friends of the Tumbledown Dick have ran a very, very good campaign. It is not for this council or the planning committee to prescribe what sort of restaurants can and cannot be in Farnborough. It's more the responsibility of the parents to educate their children as to what they can and cannot eat. In my view, one organisation that's here tonight has no credibility, and it's not McDonald's.
I was really angry when I found out about the McDonald's purchase, and I felt that the council really need to stand up and be counted, and if they really wanted to listen to us, this would have been a brilliant opportunity for them to show that the community mattered and that our voice was listened to. Even if it still didn't go our way, there was none of the engagement that I would have expected at a local level. Not one of them wanted to listen to us. Obviously, there's always a flip side. There's quite a lot of people that like McDonald's, and aggressively so. So we got a little bit of hate from some people over that, which I found most amazing, really. I mean, also one of our big features was Farnborough's already got a McDonald's. I mean, we've got a massive one. Apparently it's like the second most successful McDonald's in the UK, which is quite a revolting statistic. It's not something I'm particularly proud of. And that's only 2 miles up the road, not even that, maybe a mile and a half up the road from the Tumbledown Dick, on the same road. What are we saying to people of this town? That culture, music and social hub is not important, but more fast food to stuff in our kids' faces is important.
Concrete jungle, nice and shady. At least Guildford has got the fitted lady. They took away the thing that really made our town. So start the rebuild, give us back the tumble down. Take me home, Farnborough, where the queue for work is long. Still I hate it, but it's my town. So I have to write this song.
Initially on the first demo, Gerald Howarth, our esteemed Sir Gerald Howarth MP, who I think if he slaughtered an animal live on television would still get voted in. He seems to be untouchable. I can't believe that he keeps getting the job. And I was talking to him about how important it was that we saved this landmark building. And he was coming at it from a historical point of view. He wasn't really that bothered about the pub. But even that, I wasn't worried about his motivation, but was he going to support us? And he clearly said yes, he was. And he was completely happy to support us. He agreed to have an early day motion in Parliament to raise the matter. And we got all that on film. And yes, Bran, I'm going to do everything to support you. I think it's wonderful what you're doing. Gave me the numbers of all his private numbers and email addresses and said all the right things, did it all to camera, left, and then as it turned out, you know, he did the ultimate turnaround and met with McDonald's behind our backs and agreed that if they kept the facade of the building, which was the important bit after all, then go ahead, knock yourself out. But, you know, Gerald Howarth went to the press saying that it was down to him that the building was saved, and local people, being a little fickle, said, oh yes, well thank you, Gerald. And some local people, those of us in the know, were absolutely horrified by this turn. He'd actually managed to spin it, you know, the spin master, that somehow he done something great for the town. Well, actually, he's just made it, we've become McDonald's Farnborough again. You know, that's what we're known as. Farnburger.
I'm Amy and I live in Farnborough.
What do you make of Farnborough?
There's nothing here. You've got people setting fire to bins in the train station and smashing windows, and it's not really a nice place to be. Like, you don't feel safe walking around in Farnborough of an evening.
I don't really feel I'm part of that community. I just come in for the shops, really. Definitely having all the paving done has improved it, but I think generally it's still quite an ugly place.
Do you think there's a good community here?
It could be, but I just think that a lot more people are moving away because there isn't anything here for anybody.
What do you think the future's looking like?
Dull.
It's an alright place. Like you said about the community, it's a bit iffy. Everyone seems to be, especially teenagers, they seem to form little social groups and they kind of I wouldn't say fight, but they don't like being around each other.
Do you feel part of a community, or that you have an identity?
What, like famous?
All your friends live in Farnborough?
Yeah. Oliver from a long far away, he sometimes calls me and plays Skylanders.
Excellent. Is there anything you don't like about Farnborough? How about you?
People throw litter around. You don't like that?
No.
Some people rubber. It's the same one, but rubbish.
But rubbish, too much rubbish.
Yeah, because they always come to your house to steal things.
Oh, robbers.
Oh, robbers come to your house to steal things?
Yeah.
Has that happened in your area, has it?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
That happened in your car either. Yeah.
Is it?
Because someone smashed her window.
I think we're just so isolated, and I think technology again has played a big part in this. We used to go out and, have activities that were community organised, go to cinema. Now we just live in our own homes, looking at screens. And it used to be there was much more of a public sphere that people would kind of come together, there were easy ways to kind of do things collectively, and I think those have really disappeared or been broken up.
The campaign I've been most heavily involved in, that was the most obviously political thing, was an NHS campaign where we wanted to stop a bit of the local services getting privatised. A few people said to us at the beginning, and I totally thought it was unwinnable. And I tend to, personally, most of my politics is about fighting things that I probably don't think we're going to win on. But I kind of think it's the right thing to do to push back and resist in some way, or try and create something more positive than exists, even if you might not be able to do it. But I definitely, with that campaign, it was like, shall we bother with this? Because we're never going to do it. And I just have this local history where I can go, well, these guys did it and they won, and these guys did it and they won, and everyone had told them they wouldn't win. And I think if your town doesn't have that, and it's got none of it in its history, it's really hard to motivate people to think they can win something.
I think the word community in itself has changed a bit over the years, because I think the community in the 1980s, say, for example, everybody used to know their neighbours very, very well, and you'd do things with, barbecues with your next door neighbours and things. And I was chatting to somebody the other day, and we were talking about just fencing and privacy and things like that. And back in those days, it was very stereotypical to have the kind of chicken wire fencing that was waist level and separating back gardens, and you'd constantly be chatting to your neighbours, you'd know your neighbours' names, you'd socialise with them on a regular basis, whereas now it's pretty much all wood panel, 6 foot plus, maybe a trellis on top with plants and bits and pieces, and everybody's very much, I want my own space.
I was never a political animal, never interested in politics, didn't look further than the rubbish bin at where my rubbish went. That sort of thing. Like most people, I think, 80% of the population. I fell ill, and I'm self-employed, so falling ill was a real disaster for me. I had 4, not young children, but still quite dependent on me, and no money coming in all of a sudden. Luckily for me, I was able to get better and go back to work. But a lot of people aren't able to get better and go back to work. And I thought, what about those people? I'd already been asked to get involved with my local council, and I could see all these issues arising locally, and thought, I've got to do something about this.
How do you feel the future's looking for Farnborough?
Brighter.
Yeah?
It's changing, absolutely. I come here to shop. I do.
Okay, we are here in Farnborough for training. We are pilots. I think it's good for people for visiting for first time.
People are friendly, good community.
Very friendly.
Yeah.
There's something missing.
The interesting thing is the catalyst, the irony of the start-up of this community is the loss of the community pub. It's a residents' association that started 2 years ago when a planning application went in for a community pub to close, and came together to fight the planning application. And all the properties down the road used to be a sweet shop, a post office. We were a cobbler's shop,
a church.
The church.
Our house was a baker's.
Yeah, bakers, a brewer's, bottling plant.
Bottling plant at the bottom there.
Yeah.
It's one of the interesting things since these guys started this association. Everybody in this street stops and talks to each other. We all know everybody by first name, and you know, and they look out. And
2 years ago, that probably didn't happen.
No.
So you're not the transient Commuterville people. You have an investment in this community.
We live here.
Yeah.
Oh no, and I think if like we did, we get attached to a club, a good club, you get so many friends, you know, and so you're not lost for things to do. I mean, I like a drop of beer. See? So you can't grumble at that, you see.
Basically, the whole football side of the club is run purely by volunteers. We've got about a 4-man band, if I could do all the main repairs, and then we have obviously the matchday volunteers as well.
How many can fit in here then?
Well, this whole stadium now can actually hold 6,500 people.
Wow!
With the work that's gone on over the last sort of 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
We've managed to finish the main stand off. Which, I mean, that holds 1,350 as it is.
So have more people come in because of the stand?
No, not really.
No.
I think it was a case of the previous owners had a bit of a pipe dream, if you like. It was the next Manchester United and non-league football.
You think there's a good community in this town?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah?
Especially within the whole town. I mean, obviously not just the football, but I mean the whole town's been under redevelopment over the last couple of years. Obviously shopping centres, new housing going up, which is what Farnborough needs at the end of the day.
Why does community matter?
Because we're made that way. And there's something deeply within us that is community.
Do you know the word community?
Yeah.
You do? What does it mean?
It means like a whole group.
Yeah.
People.
Do you like being part of the whole group of people?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Do you think you should be nice to people? Get on with
Yeah.
So this is the Kindred Spirits Breast Cancer Choir. So it's made up of approximately about 30 ladies who've all had breast cancer treatment or going through breast cancer treatment at the moment. We run a moving on programme at our hospital, and one of the patients said that singing made her feel much better, particularly when she was going through chemotherapy treatment. So with that idea, we kind of thought, how about setting up a choir?
Why do you think community matters?
I think you get more out of this life if you give more back to it. I can probably give a simple example of that in terms of this Christmas just gone. We thought that in Community Matters Partnership Project we would do something we hadn't done before, and we would ask the partners to have a Christmas drive in terms of gifts for young people in the area who aren't going to have a very good Christmas. So you obviously straight away think of things like kids in hospital, kids in care, kids whose families haven't got much of an income, people in a refuge, people in homeless, living on the streets maybe. So all of these different areas.
So we put that out to our partners and said, what do you think? When you put the Christmas tree up in the foyer of the business this year, instead of putting baubles on it, put little Christmas tags on them to say 3-year-old boy, 5-year-old girl, 18-year-old boy. And then your employees take a tag, go out and buy something for that person, put it back under the Christmas tree. We didn't know what would come from it. We thought we might be lucky and get 100, 200 gifts that we could distribute. It snowballed. We ended up with, I think, about 850 gifts. In here, I can show you a photo in a minute if you like, you couldn't see this desk anywhere for parcels.
We're a charity working with children and young people ranging from the ages of 5 down up to about 21, 22. We're supposed to stop at 19, but we tend to carry on working with people until they stop needing us, really. I set it up 9 years ago now. It was a direct response to the fact that there was nothing to do for young people, particularly on this estate. We were experiencing lots of issues, including things like predominantly boys, really, causing a lot of antisocial behaviour. They were just bored, they had nothing else to do. So I came up with the idea of setting up a gaming zone, which is what we originally called, to kind of engage those boys in, really, give them some diversionary activities. And back in those days, of course, things like Wii consoles and PlayStation were all coming out. There's no way that these young people could afford to have those. So it worked really well as a good engagement tool. The first week we opened, it was me and 3 volunteers, and I was a volunteer as well. It was a bit like tumbleweed. We hadn't done very much marketing. We had about 3 people in. Just twiddling our thumbs thinking what we're going to do. And the second week the door rang, and I opened the door and there's a sea of young people in the car park. But we've seen some amazing success stories, people going in to join the army, people getting jobs, starting as apprentices and getting jobs. One young woman that we've worked with was in a terrible state all throughout her younger teenage years, sofa surfing, in and out of different homes, drug dealing, addicted to MCAT, which was the drug of choice at the time. But we worked really intensively with her for a 3-year period, in fact still working with her now. But she's just transformed into this amazing young woman.
We had a phone call, a visit from a lady one day, and said there's a man lives down our road. He's got cuts all over his face, and I see him when he's going in his garden every day. He's rubbing his head across an unkempt rosebush. And she told us where it was. We went and saw him, and it was like a lifesaver to him. He said, I didn't know what to do. I was frightened to ring a gardener up in case somebody ripped me off. So we went round there, made it safe for him, and then, whilst we don't go every week, what we would do is, say it was yours or my mum, we would say we'll come to you 3 times during the summer. So we'll keep the grass short, keep it tidy, take away. And it's another great bit of partnership work, because Rushmoor Borough Council help us with disposing of green waste and things like that. But it's a winner, really.
Really, it's about finding your own local, what's happening locally. Coming to London and doing a march where there's 50,000 people on it, just fuck all. I'll be honest, what do you do at the end of that? You go home, you feel good, you had a day out in London. That's it. And if that's all you want, then you've achieved it. But it's more important that you organise locally around your own local issues. So if there's things happening locally, you get involved with that. That doesn't mean then that you can't feed into to a bigger protest. But it's much more. We have to challenge power. This is really what we need to do. We've got to start building communities within, that fight back. It's got to be, and also when you're doing this, you are raising people's sort of political engagement, because the fact that you're there and then somebody comes and says what you're doing, and you talk to them and you talk to them, and then they tell you about well, this is what's happening to me, and you go, well, perhaps you should come and join us. Yeah. And then the next thing you do, you perhaps meet in a coffee bar and then you talk about it. And the thing is, you start building these small movements. We don't have trade unions anymore. No. So we're going to have to start thinking about the way that we build our social and political movements in different ways. And for me, I think it's about community.
What do you think the future's looking like?
Good question, Stephen.
I think the future is bright, the future is rainbow. I take heart from science fiction. You look at Star Trek, the characters are diverse. They know that you have to use everybody in a group to make things work. And in our society, we have to share the love.
Well, I like to be optimistic about the future. I think, obviously the general trend is a bit grim, but there's some positive things.
I don't know. I mean, I worry. I don't worry, but I do take into account like the state the world might be in, like worst case scenario. When I would think about, if I think about having children, like it's something I do seriously, or I'm starting to more seriously consider as I get older. Like, could you bring a child into this, situation? I think climate change, environmental disasters, these are things that people don't really engage with, when actually they affect like the whole world. I talk about it with my friends and I kind of think, I don't know if like I'll see any real change in my lifetime, but I don't think that should stop people from doing stuff. Like, what side of history do you want to be on, kind of thing?
Well, the future looks grim, but I think for me it's now even more personal, having been a patient as well as a doctor, so we had no choice but to fight for this tooth and nail, and as Anya and Bevan, the founder of the NHS, famously said, it would survive as long as there were people who were prepared to fight for it.
I don't know, I actually feel a bit pessimistic. I think most people aren't or don't care to engage. You either have people who are completely unpolitically engaged and are watching X Factor, or just looking forward to the Queen's birthday, or you have people that their first piece of political engagement is rage towards the sort of most vulnerable in society, because it's just a way for them to release the panic that they have when they realise how fucked they are, how fucked we all are. It's a bit of a damning indictment on all of us in society. I think, I don't feel that encouraged, actually. I think I feel a bit scared about Europe right now, about the UK right now. I think it's everyone's responsibility to sort of wake up a little bit and realise what's going on, as you find yourself in the Third Reich without realising it.
There is nothing in this world that is perfect, even that camera in front of me.
Yeah.
Nothing. But believe me, in politics you can always vote for the least imperfect candidate.
I'm always an optimist and hoping that it's going to get better.
The future is probably good. Even if it's hard to believe, we're probably living in the best time in human history.
I don't want to put my kids at risk, but my kids are at risk.
Already,
the climate crisis is a parenting crisis, the environmental crisis, the poisons that are around. There is no future for your kids. It's the point at which somehow you wake up and you go, I can't participate in this anymore. I've got to do something about it.
Well, it can go either way. Actually, it can be very. There is a light on the horizon, at the end of that tunnel. I'm just hoping it's not a fast train coming the opposite way.
Well, God knows. Getting people motivated to believe that they can change their lives, rather than them being passive, rather than the government more or less saying to them, you sit there on your backside, watch Jeremy Kyle, smoke a joint, drink a couple of cans of lager, and everything will be cool. And in the meantime, your future's going down the pan.
Grim. Fucking grim. I mean, let's think about it. Shall we be too dangerous? Would it be too dangerous? Should it be too dangerous? I don't know, it took 27 years for working class people to find any sort of justice. What could we, we've got disabled people who are actually starving to death. The NHS in the next 5 years will be gone. I don't know, perhaps we'll look back in 5 years and say we should have been more radical. Better to be more radical today than to regret it tomorrow.
Well, I'm a Gandhian when it comes to politics.
Right.
What I mean by that is Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see in the world.
What do you think the future's looking like for Farnborough?
Very big and massive.
Very big and massive?
Yeah.
You reckon it's looking
And
good?
with lots of shops, maybe.
You want more shops?
Yeah. Some more food to eat.
More food?
Most important things in my life. Well, my girlfriend. I've been with her for years, and she's like the love of my life type thing. The house, because it's like our first house that we moved into. It's a big deal. It's something that we've grown to love, and we knew we wanted it the moment we saw it. And just my family really, and they're quite local and they're quite close around, so I can see them at any point. And obviously I've got my mates. I don't really have that many concerns. I mean, always financially it's a bit of a struggle occasionally but then that's particular things that prop up that you don't know about, that, you know, like cars going wrong, or, you know, having to spend a little bit of extra money on particular things. Like, I mean, obviously not boiler breaking yet, because I've not had that mishap. I don't know about what tomorrow is going to hold. I mean, I could say that I'm content now, but then suddenly something drastic is going to happen that will improve things, and I'll be like, oh, right, okay, maybe changes for the better type thing. But I don't know about that right now. It doesn't affect me directly.
I just want to say thank you, Peter. I just want to say thank you, Peter, for buying me lunch. You're a friendly guy. Thank you, Peter, for taking me to NP. Oh, Peter, you do so many things for me. Oh, Peter, you're such a good friend. Thank you, Peter, for being so generous. Oh, Peter, I love you so. Thank you, Peter.
Seems like such a cold and lonely place, and the sun don't see my face here in the winter. I spend a lot of time just hanging in my room. Got to stop from thinking about this gloom, yeah. Looking out my window, I see planes passing by. But when the weekend comes around, I'll be flying high. I'll be doing the Farnborough groove, doing the Farnborough groove with you, baby, yeah. Doing the Farnborough groove right now. Gotta see my baby move. Well, I'm stuck in my bus lane. Gotta catch that Farnborough North train. I'll maybe see you at the wreck. Or we'll go dancing down the tag. But if you wanna dance and play, get off at Junction 4A. 'Cause when the weekend comes around, I'll be getting down. I'll be doing the Farnborough groove, doing the Farnborough groove with you, baby, yeah. Doing the Farnborough groove right now. Gotta see my baby move, and it goes like this. Ba, 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 da, ba, 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 ba. Looking out my window, I see planes passing by. But when the weekend comes around, I'll be flying high. I'll be doing the Farnborough groove, doing the Farnborough groove with you, baby, yeah. Doing the Farnborough groove right now. Gotta see my baby move. It goes like this. Ba, 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 da, ba, da, ba. Ba, 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 ba. Looking out my window, I see planes passing by. But when the weekend comes around, yeah, I'll be flying high.